This chapter we'll be looking at constructors. A constructor initializes the object after creation. It has the same name as that of the class. We'll be looking at an example in a bit. They don't have a return type. So by default, constructor will be used in the new operator, and the operator is going to return an instance of that class. So hence it is not required to specify the return type. Constructor can be overloaded. So we can have constructors taking different arguments. If no constructor is provided, Java provides a default constructor. We'll be looking at an example in a bit. So here we are showing a class playing ball. So this playing ball class has got two data members. One is type of data type string and one is radius of type int. Here we have provided one constructor. So name of the constructor is playing ball. As you can see, the playing ball matches the name of the class. So this is mandatory. You cannot have constructor which is different than name of the class. It is accepting two arguments. One is type and one is radius. We are calling a super method here. So super is nothing but the constructor of its parent class. So parent class of any class which doesn't extend any other class is by default object O capital. Or by invoking super, we'll be calling the default constructor of the parent. After that, we are using this dot type equals to type. So it is assigning whatever value we are passing in the argument to the data member. So this dot type is equal to type and this dot radius is equal to radius. When no argument is specified, Java provides the default constructor. The default constructor doesn't have any arguments. So here is the example of playing ball class. Here we don't have any constructors, but we can still be able to create an instance of this class by using the new operator. And you can see we are saying playing ball b1 equals to new playing ball bracket. So we are calling this constructor, but you can see that we haven't provided any constructor. So this is what Java does by default for you. So it behaves as if it will be providing this implementation right here. Let's go over what is constructor overloading. Now this is similar to method overloading. So it is possible to have multiple constructors. They have to be unique by the number of arguments and the type of the arguments. So here is an example. We have a playing ball class and it is having type and radius. Now we need to initialize type and radius when we create an instance. So constructor will allow you to do that. So we have provided 4 constructors. So playing ball, it is a default constructor. So the first one is similar to a default constructor. It is not taking argument, hence it would not be able to initialize it. The second constructor is taking string type. So this will allow us to initialize the type data member. So third one, it takes int radius. So it can allow us to initialize the radius data member. The last one, it is taking 2 arguments, string type and int radius. So this will allow us to initialize both the data members. In this example, we have created playing ball class with two data members, string type and int radius. And we have public methods to access them. And we have two more methods, one to compute volume and the other one is to check if it is a basketball. As you can see, this doesn't have any constructor. Let's try to create an instance of this class. So here we have playing ball demo class and in there we have public static main method. So we are going to be creating an instance of playing ball. So by default, Eclipse will allow you to create a toString method. That's what we are going to do. So we'll include all the fields and say I want to generate this method. So it will allow us to generate toString, which is returning a string. So it is basically an helper method to print the contents of this particular instance, right? So let's go back to our demo and we'll do a system.out. We'll say pv colon pv. So we don't need to provide toString. By default, Java will call the toString method. Now if you run this, so you can see it is printing playing ball instance. The type is null because we have not initialized that. So by default, it is going to be null and radius is 0. Let's now try to create our own constructor. If we provide our own constructor, then the default constructor is not provided by Java. So here we have this constructor. So we are taking two arguments, one is string type and radius, and we are taking the arguments and initializing our data members with this, right? So as soon as we do this, you can see that this is the red flag because Java has removed the default constructor. So it says that we don't have constructor which is not taking any arguments. So we are going to be calling this with some name. And if you try to run this, you will see that we are getting type equals to football and radius is 8. So it is able to call the constructor that we provided. Now let's try to overload the constructor. So let's try to copy this and we'll just say when we are creating the object, we don't know what the radius is. So we are going to be just passing the type and we'll get rid of this radius thing. Right. So now we have two constructors. One is taking two arguments, and the other one is taking only one argument, only the type. So other things remain as is. So we can get rid of this as well. And now you can see we have, this is not giving us error because it knows that when we passing two arguments, it is going to call the constructor with two arguments. So we'll copy paste this and we'll say we are creating another instance. So now in here, we are going to be passing only, let's say, cricket ball. Now this should still work. So we are just saying pv2 and let's print this. So here the expected outcome is that the radius will show as 0 for cricket ball because we are calling the constructor which is only taking the type and it is initializing the type. So let's try to run this. So you can see the cricket ball, the radius is 0. Let's do a quick recap of what we learn in constructors. A constructor initializes the object after creation. Name of the constructor must be same as the class name. Constructors can be overloaded. If no constructor is provided, Java provides a default constructor which doesn't take any arguments.